We're going to put it on YouTube and Facebook.
Wait,
so
is
you'll
YouTube-
be, I mean, you won't be able to watch it live. But
Is
you'll be able
YouTube
to see
working?
it. Huh?
YouTube's working?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
744, Rev Tax Director Dafne Shimizu. Daf, has this outage of WhatsApp and I'm presuming probably WhatsApp most, has it kind of affected you guys' operations this morning?
Well, it's pretty early, and although we do communicate by WhatsApp within our agency, I've not heard of any issues yet this morning. But really, we're here in the office anyway, working. So I don't know that it will really cause an issue. Also, again, because we're here in the office. But we have been processing a lot of payments though over the last week, in particular as of September 30, which we wanted to, of course, work to announce last week. On the 30th, we processed payments for the advanced child tax credit. We also processed refunds, and we're excited that for refunds, we actually are up to July 2nd, A status returns that were as of July 2nd. So, that's really exciting. Usually around this time, we're just trying to process refunds for April 15 because we're trying to stay, within the requirements of the permanent injunction, which requires 6 months from date of filing or due date, whichever's later. But now we're at July 2. And so again, that's really exciting. So for those people who have filed their returns or whose returns became A status as of July 2, those refunds were processed. And as well as on the advanced child tax credit side, we processed our second installment of advanced child tax credit payments. That was for over 15,000 tax filings, and that was a little bit of just shy of $8.5 million. So far we've done 2 installments of the advanced child tax credit, just shy of $17 million, and we're gearing up to go ahead and make payment on the 3rd installment, which will happen October 15. We also we did process all RISE program payments last week as well. So we did 3 large check writes right before the end of the fiscal year, we wanted to just make sure that we do regular check writes anyway. With regards to the all RISE program, we did process another, I believe, $6 million just last week, Thursday. So we've been working to make sure that we, are processing payments as quickly as we can. And of course, I know one thing that did get brought up, and Chris, was the issue of, I know we have been asked about some issues with regards to direct deposits. We were advised a couple Fridays ago that there was some issues with some direct deposits. We're getting calls this morning, and we've been getting calls about people who have issues with direct deposit, for example, for the September 17 All Rise program payment. We're working with the treasurer of Guam and DOA to resolve those. So we're just asking for everybody's patience. So if you did have a direct deposit for the September 17 All Rise program payment, then, if you could just be a little bit patient on that. We've been trying to work on that. My understanding was that they should have been processed, but again, we're working to get confirmation on that. So just to share with you though, what we did last week, because we knew we were running into some challenges with regards to the, what we call EFTs or direct deposits. So all of our payments, both the advanced child tax credit payments and then the all rise payments and the refund payments that we processed last week, we processed 100% by a paper check, just because we didn't want to further hold up any potential payments or payouts for people. So, if you had a payment that was processed in the last week from the Department of Revenue and Taxation, those were processed as paper checks, even if you might have elected to be paid by direct deposit. And again, because we've been working with the treasurer, we just didn't want to have any more delays if there was potential delays. So, but we've gotten those payments transmitted to the treasurer for mail out as well.
Just again, Daphne, so there's problems with direct deposit that you guys are working on for the CTC, the All Rise, and refunds. But as a backup, you guys have sent over paper checks to the treasurer.
Right. So we were receiving calls about the September 17 All Rise program payment, the EFTs for that. And of course, we did a September 17 All Rise program payment. We did a September 20 advanced child tax credit payment. And I believe we did a September 24 payment of refunds. So we had multiple check writes. We have so many check writes here, right, that we do. So we had multiple check writes happening. We first began getting calls about the September 17 All Rise program EFT or direct deposit payments. And of course, we have been in communication with Treasurer of Guam, again, to try to resolve those issues. If we're still getting some calls now.
Yeah.
So what we're asking the community for is just a little bit of patience as we work to resolve those. I was under the impression that for the late last week, coming into early this week, those should have been resolved, but we're getting confirmation on that today, so that we can make sure, again, if there's a need to address in another way, then we will. But, in anticipation, or because we were running into or still had some challenges with those direct deposits, what we did last week was we processed all payments by paper check. And so people will be getting those payments by paper check. And again, just because we didn't want to further compound the problem, and because we have so many payments that we are processing, I like to say maybe within, from the second week of September to the end of September, we probably processed about $59 million in payments. I'm not even counting the first week. So, and that was between, EIP3, All Rise program payments, advanced child tax credit payments, and refunds. And that was just from, I think, the second week of September until just last week, that's September 30. So we're really processing a lot of payments. Of course, it's been hugely important to our administration to try to get payments out to our people as quickly as possible. And as I mentioned, Sabrina, usually we're around this time just trying to pay out April 15. So to be at July 2 in terms of refunds, that's huge. Our team's been working really hard to try to just get those out to process returns as quickly as we can, and just really proud of that, and proud of our, our ability to do that. Of course, we've gotten a lot of support from Governor and Lieutenant Governor to make sure that we have, overtime that's needed, that we have, again, we did get allocated some additional resources for processing All Rise. So that's been huge, and we're, again, excited to get July 2 out. I think, again, I don't know if that's ever happened, but definitely not, at least in the last 18 years likely. So, to have July 2 be paid out at this time, and we're just happy that people are getting payments, and we're hearing about people getting their refunds quickly.
Do you know what the problem is with the direct deposit?
Yeah, so it's a bit complicated, and it has to do with the way that rejects are processed. So when, of course, when we did All Rise, just so you know, we had 55% of our applicants had indicated that they wish to be paid by direct deposit. And so when people enter wrong information, like for example, if you indicate it's a savings versus a checking, or if you indicate the wrong routing number, and it causes rejections, well, those rejections are causing some challenges on our side in terms of the processing. So, of course, we had to address that, or we're working to address that with both DOA, Treasurer of Guam, and then also with the bank. So that's something that we're hopeful it gets resolved. I was actually, again, under the impression that late last week it should have been already resolved, but we're still getting some calls this morning. So we're working to confirm that.
Well, we do have a caller on the line. I believe they may have a question for you. Good
Absolutely.
morning. Good morning. Welcome to the link.
Good morning. Yes. Okay, so I did apply on the first day of the All Rise online, and the first a couple of days when I called after they first issue, they said it's in review. That there's something going on. It's in review, but they're not telling me what it is. But ever since then, I've been calling. I understand they're busy, so they're not answering. But how would I know to come up there and fix the issue if I don't know what's the issue? And the thing about it, I got my tax refund in February.
Sure.
So I don't know what's the
that's
problem.
That's a good question. And actually, we're getting a lot of questions. So just to share, Bree and Chris and Jason, what we have been working on is making sure that we get all A status applications processed and paid. So as of the 30th, last week, we did process payment for all A status applications all the way through September 15. So if you had an A status application, those applications, payments were processed for those. Now, of course, there is a challenge with the EFT issue, but again, that's working to be resolved. But that will be resolved, and people will get those payments. And we did have probably, I think at one point it was like 6,800 or 6,900 of the 37,600 applications were in suspend status for some reason, and it had to do with people there was many reasons. Misspelling a name, misspelling or not entering proper information for their filing status, not entering proper mailing address. So there were multiple reasons why people may have had an issue. We also saw where people may have entered a date of death, even though that they were not, they had not passed away. And those issues are things that people have actually been communicating with us about. So we do have a review committee which was convened a few weeks ago to work to address the issue of the status of people's the suspended applications. And that review committee, just to share, has been reviewing people's information. And in fact, we were able to get our suspended applications down to about half. So where we had about 6,800 or so, I believe we were only in the 3,000 range in terms of suspended applications. So we were able to cut it further. There are some suspend reasons that will result in no payment at all. For example, if people had submitted, but their AGI exceeded the $40,000 or $80,000 threshold, or, again, so there are other reasons why, or they didn't meet the eligibility criteria. They may on Section 5 have answered no to some of those questions, no that they're not a resident, that they did not experience negative economic impact. So all of those would have made somebody ineligible if they answered no on Section 5 of the application, or if they didn't submit a Form 8821, right? Those are all issues. We did also run into unprocessable applications. And I believe I mentioned this before, where the applications were not legible at all, or they were not signed, or they were incomplete. So we ran into issues where people submitted a manual application and they were incomplete. But for those people who filed online, you can actually check the status of your payment or your application online at myguamtax.com. If you're still not, if you're still running into an issue, of course, our call center is having or experiencing quite significant high call volumes at this time trying to address it. You can email pinadmin@revtax.guam.gov, and that's PINADMIN @revtax.guam.gov. Our customer service supervisor, she does check those emails and make sure that we respond to people as quickly as we can. But if you do have an S status application, meaning a suspend application, those are being addressed now. And like I said, we went from over 6,800, maybe 6,900 suspended applications to about 3,000. So we're getting to those, trying to make sure that people do get their payments. So if you could just give it a little time or contact us, and then we can address your specific situation.
Mm-hmm. And so if they're just not able to get a hold of DRT in any of the ways that you were mentioning, do you suggest that they just come up to DRT?
You know what, our team also at Income Tax Branch is able to assist them as well. But you know what, I highly recommend that, you call or you try to email us beforehand. Of course, we're gearing up to, we're going to have the October 15 extended due date or the deadline coming up. So we're gearing up for that as well in the Income Tax Branch. And our customer service team really has been the primary team that has been trying to work to resolve. So they do answer calls the best they can. They also work to answer their emails. So the best way is to call or email us, but you can absolutely always come in. We're open 8 to 5, and our Income Tax Branch will work to assist you.
Okay. And so, Dafne, do you have how much has actually been paid out in All Rise?
So we processed, as of September 17, it was about $26.2 million that was paid out. And then last week, again, and I don't have the final numbers, Bree, but it was over $6 million, I believe, that we had processed as of September 30.
Daph, do you have time to? I'm sorry.
Wait, well, so the total was what? I'm sorry. Is it 26?
So I believe the total is a little bit over $32 million so far. But again, that's just for A status applications filed as of September 15. And we're still working on, of course, paying out any suspended applications. Those, we have not paid out suspended applications.
Mm-hmm. But you cleared out a little over the 3,000, right, of the S status. So yeah. How many applications does the 32 million break down to?
I don't have that.
Okay.
I actually have to get back to you. I know that I believe that we had done over 18,000, of course, as of I think the 17th. I don't have the final numbers on the total that has been processed as of last week, the 30th. But I do know that it was a little bit over $6 million that was processed as of September 30, but we'll work to provide that information.
So if the cap was 30 million, where did the 2 million come from to pay out?
So, you know what, again, I think in terms of source of funds, of course, that is really determined by DOA BBMR. So that I will have to defer to them. I mean, I can only, contemplate or assume where it may come from, but it's really best to get that information from BBMR and DOA. And that also is something that we can work to get information to you on.
Mm-hmm.
What's your assumption, though, Daph?
Of course, there was discussion about trying to allocate some additional monies from ARP, but again, I can't confirm that. I have to get that information directly from DOA BBMR.
Guys, we're just going to jump over the top of the hour for just a couple of minutes, Daph, if you could. We did have just a few more questions for you guys, but Link Fam, buckle up. We're coming over to KUAM TV next. Okay, never mind. We're not going on TV. Yeah, we can't go on TV because there's no Facebook. Oh my God.
We're on Channel 10,
Oh
though.
my God, Becky.
Just audio.
We're on Channel 10 audio, and we're on the Breeze audio, which is a shame.
And on the app.
We really got dressed up for you guys this morning.
Okay, and just a quick update about that global Facebook outage.
Yes.
It looks like it is starting to come back like a little bit. Tech media is like really trying to deep dive into this, but it's coming back slowly. So if you have Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, consider yourself lucky. It's going to take several hours before this comes fully back.
Daph, we did have a caller online, but I wanted to ask, because we had a previous caller who said that you had said in this interview that all RISE payments up to September 29 were processed, but she said her direct deposit is showing 00.
So all RISE program applications that were A status up to September 15 have been processed. And if people have or received a payment on the September 17 as a direct deposit, the September 17 direct deposits, if there was an issue, that's something that's working to be resolved. Again, you know what, we're really experiencing high call volumes, so you may not be able to get into our office if you're calling, but our team is working to try to respond to as many calls and emails as possible. We are working with the Department of Administration and TOG to address any EFT issues that might still be existing. But again, my understanding was that late last week, we had worked to resolve that. For those people who did get refund payments or advanced child tax credit payments or all RISE payments that were processed last week, though, those were 100% processed by paper check. So even if you did elect to be paid in terms of your refund or all RISE or the advanced child tax credit follows the refund. If you did elect to be paid, but you were paid last week, and again, these are for filers that probably were from June 19, where they became A status June 19 to July 2, those ones are being paid by paper check, and we did transmit those to the treasurer for them to transmit. So, we recognize that we didn't want to further delay anybody's payments. Although direct deposit is we believe is the best method. We were running into some challenges with it, but those are working to be resolved.
Out of the unprocessable applications, do you have a number for that? Like how many were unprocessable or illegible?
I don't have a final count on it. I believe it's over 300 or so. It may even be more than that, Bree. But I actually have to confirm with my team, because the other thing that's happening is, of course, the review committee, first they needed to work to address kind of the largest issue in terms of suspense, which is why we're able to get, down to about half. And then, they're working on looking at the different suspense status, closing out anything that will never result in a payment, like again, where somebody was not eligible at all, or they because they exceeded the AGI, or they didn't qualify based on their answers, right? Those will be resolved. And then looking at, of course, we have been getting specific emails or questions from people about their All RISE program application. So of course, trying to address those where people may have just made an error, and we're trying to, figure out again or review those. So I don't have a final count on that. I will have to get that. But again, we did process over $32 million in payments. And I don't have a final count on how many applications those were, but they did cover A status applications through September 15. And we're now going to be in the next check right working to process payment for anybody, well, the people that had suspend status that we were able to resolve. And that's, again, a good amount, probably about almost half, if not half of the amount of the original applications that were in suspend status. So we're having to go through it in phases. Also, we do have other things happening here, and our deputy director who's in charge of the review committee is also with me. We're here since 6 in the morning. We're excited that pretty soon we're going to be launching our online renewal and replacement for Guam IDs and driver's licenses. So our team's going through final training. We were originally slated to launch that in mid-September, but we ran into some challenges with our programming and our system. So we're now slated to launch that very soon. We're hoping in no later than the next week, but we're excited about that because that will mean about 40 to 60% of our line will be able to be addressed, and people won't have to come in here for that. The other feature that I haven't really talked about, which is going to be launched as well, is a pre-registration feature. So that will allow for people to enter their information on their application online, and you won't have to bring in your paper form. So that's exciting too, to reduce the amount of paper we have, but also, we spend about 20 to 30 minutes. It can take about 20 to 30 minutes for a processing. So for example, when you come in to submit for a driver's license application, it may take us up to 20 to 30 minutes to enter your information. So when you bring in a paper form. So we're excited that this pre-registration process, which will enable or allow for applicants to enter their information online, will help to reduce processing time as well. So, we're looking forward to that. So we also have that that's ongoing too.
Daph, we did have a caller about they didn't receive the first advanced child tax credit. What do you, and we've gotten a few of these calls over the last few days, what do you suggest these people do?
So if you did not receive the September 10 payment for the advanced child tax credit and you elected to be paid by EFT, I was advised that for those individuals who had a rejection, an EFT rejection for the first payment, which was September 10, what we do is if there is a direct deposit rejection, what we do is, and once we're advised, our team works to process a paper check for those. So if you had a issue with your direct deposit from September 10, and that is the reason why you didn't receive a payment is because of your direct deposit issue from September 10, our team in the last week did process payments for those. So those should be going out as well in this week, if that's the issue. If there's another reason, for example, I'm not sure if you don't know if your application has been processed again, what I suggest is if you're not able to contact us through our call center through 635-1840, 1841, 7614-7651, or 1813, that you email our customer call center at pinadmin@revtax.guam.gov. And I'll tell you, our customer call center supervisor, she does go through those emails. She works to make sure that we respond to people as quickly as we can. So, email as well is another option.
What about that online portal?
So you can actually get online, correct? So if you filed online, then you can actually get online to the portal at myguamtax.com. The same exact place where you went to file your application online, you can get online and check the status of your application there as well, free.
Okay. And we do have a caller.
Yeah, we do.
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning. So my question is actually regarding the child tax credit. So, basically, there are some people like on social media, to include myself, that, let's say, for example, we didn't receive any of the child tax credit yet due to like an incorrect date of birth, like not the year, but the month. And we're being told that there's a list of people that had that same situation. Am I able to know like what's the status or what's an update on like those kind of issues, like what's gonna happen? Because we're being told that if we didn't receive the first one due to that issue, that we're not gonna receive a second and possibly a third. So what is the status and what are we supposed to do in that scenario?
Thank you for that question. So with the advanced child tax credit, we've already run the first 2 installments of 5. You know what? In the first two installments that were processed in the month of September, our system was only capable of allowing at that point an enrollment. So we do have that form 15323, which you could find on our website in myguamtax.com. I believe it's in the new latest information section right there, kind of the bottom left or like mid left if you scroll. And there's these blue kind of font you see there. You'll see the form 15323A. If there is an issue because we do not have the proper date of birth for your child or information for your child, we are now beginning to accept that form 15323 for all changes that are on that form. So initially we were only accepting it for an enrollment. Now what's happening is, so if you have not received a payment, the first and second payment, because we don't have proper information for your dependent, you can fill out that form, you can update your qualifying child's information, and you can submit that during business hours here at Income Tax Branch so that we can go ahead and enter it in the system. You have until October 11 to go ahead and submit that manually to our Income Tax Branch. And we're just now gearing up to launch the online portal, Bree, so that people can make the changes online, but we'll have to announce once that happens. Our developers are still working on it. So for now, it's still a manual application, but if you haven't received the first two payments, and you give us your form, again, you will have to have a filed 2020 or a validly filed and processed 2020 or 2019 return. You cannot submit the update form. Well, if you submit the update form and you don't have a validly filed and processed 2020 or 2019 return, we're not going to be able to update your information. So you must make sure that, number one, you have a validly filed and processed 2019 or 2020 return. And as long as you do, then now you should be able to come here today and you can go ahead and fill out the form 15323 and submit information to update your dependent's information. When we do process the October 15 payment, what will happen is you will get the 3 installments for those dependents in that single payment. So if you were due 300, then you'll get on October 15, you should receive, if you're due the 300 per installment, then you'll receive $900 on October 15. So again, it's not too late to submit that information. Again, we're accepting manual applications all the way until next week, Monday, October 11, and we'll advise once the portal is open so people can do that online as well.
Okay, thank you.
So people at
Thank
this
you
point,
so much.
people at this point have to go to DRT for the CTC.
Right.
And
Correct.
just, do you guys have a timeline on when the online portal is actually going to go online? Because I know when the FAQ came out a while back about this online portal that it was going to be launching soon. Is there just any time frame?
So we're expecting no later than likely this weekend or probably Monday. We're hoping sooner, Bree, because we recognize we really don't want people to have to come in here to do this. Unfortunately, at this time, the portal is not, the developers are still working on it and there were some bugs. And we're working on so many different programs, and I don't know, like right now between, of course, the Advanced Child Tax Credit Portal, which we're waiting to launch, and then also our driver's license system, which I'm working like really closely on both sides. Again, we've been running into some challenges, so we're hoping no later than next Monday we'll be advising. And of course, the reason why, just to share with you, the reason why we are requiring that people submit it like in person is because when we receive it, we make the change on the spot. And if you submit it in the Dropbox, the concern is, or send it by mail, paper, a USPS, we're concerned that it won't come in time for us to make the change. And so we're requiring people submit it. You don't have to be the person to submit it yourself. If you're not able to, of course, you can always have a family member drop it and file it with us, but make sure that all the information is correct, right? And that if you have questions about it, again, you can find the form on our website. But we want to make sure that we get those so that people get their payments. We want to make sure that everybody who qualifies is able to get their payment by October 15 by the first installment. And once you do make that change, the 15323, once you filed it once, those changes stay in effect. So for the individual who called earlier, once she gets her, get caught up on the first 3 installments for November and December, there should not be an issue. She will get the same payments for those months.
That's really key, Daph, because I've been hearing a lot of chatter about people who didn't enter a date of birth, or like the lady entered the wrong month. And so you're saying with this form, they can remedy the situation and they will receive the child tax credits
Correct. There is a section on the form. So there are, I believe, 5 things you can do on the form. You can unenroll, but just so you know, if you unenroll, you can't re-enroll. Once you unenroll, that's it. No payments going forward. If you've received a payment, then of course you can keep it or you can return it. But once you unenroll, you cannot re-enroll. You can change your mailing address for the advanced child tax credit payment as well. You can also update information on your AGI. So for individuals who may not have qualified because their AGI was too high, they can enter information to update that. They can also indicate payment by direct deposit, either to correct a prior direct deposit or to be paid by direct deposit for the first time. And you can update, information on your dependent children. So those are the 5 things you can do. It's important as well to, and I want to share, you'll see on the form itself that there's some indication in certain sections that a certain part is what's called an individual action. And that's important for people to understand. When we talk about individual action, if you are a single filer, it really has no impact. But if you are a joint filer, what it means is that both you and your spouse must execute and file that in order for the changes to go in effect for both of you. And so, for example, unenrollment. If I am married filing joint and only I submit the unenrollment, the form for unenrollment, I'm the only one that's going to unenroll. My spouse will not also unenroll. So my husband will continue to receive the $150, but I will not receive mine. In order for him to unenroll, he must also submit that form as well for that. And the other sections that require or that are individual action, and again, just to share with you, the areas that are individual or action are only those areas where I will be able to, as an individual, make a change to divert a payment for my spouse, right? The reality is for the advanced child tax credit, I have a kind of a legal interest, I guess, in 50% of it, right? So if I'm married, filing joint, my husband has a legal interest in 50% of it, and I also have a legal interest in 50% of it. So we each have a legal interest in $150. I cannot divert my husband's $150 to be mailed to another checking account or to be deposited in another bank account, or I can't unenroll him. So all of those have to be done. When we say individual action, again, it means both taxpayers on a joint return must execute in order for both portions of the payment to be impacted. And again, that's very important to understand because, again, we, have to make sure that, again, we only allow people to make changes to their legal interest in the payment.
All right, that was a lot of information.
Are you sure though? Because I don't want to let her go unless we.
No, I did want to ask. You talked about the unprocessable applications. What about questionable applications that may have been submitted regarding All Rise? Has there been any kind of indication of possible fraud?
Right, and so that's also another area that our review committee is working to address as well, or has flagged. And we want to make sure that, to the extent possible, and this applies to all the programs that we run, that our team does address any issues with regards to potential fraud. And of course, our criminal investigations branch is very well aware that, that's one of the top items that we need to address. And, there are elements of fraud. So when there are indicators of fraud, those items are transmitted to our criminal investigation branch for them to review. And so again, that is another area that we will be looking at. And, just to share, Bree, of course, when people file, these are actual government official documents. So, what we have been advising, of course, you sign under penalties of perjury, and you must make sure that all information on the application is correct to the best of your knowledge. So, again, if there are indications of fraud, our team will be working to address that because, again, we want to make sure that there is credibility in the process and that people know that we are looking and reviewing those. So those are things we're also going to be working to address as well.
Has there been any indication though?
At this time, we've been really trying to focus on a lot of the issues that we're working to resolve in the suspend status items. So at this point, I'm not aware of any specific issue with regards to fraud on an All Rise program application.
Any program? Any applications?
Of course, I think that in other programs, there may have been some cases and again, the reality is our CIB team reminds me that there are elements of fraud that have to be proven. So even though, you know what, we may have or see a questionable item or questionable situation, until they've done their full investigation, you know, it's difficult to tell, or they cannot determine whether it's truly, you know, fraud. And so they remind me all the time, you know what, that really all elements of fraud have to be met. And of course, we have to make sure that we go through the process of doing our due diligence to ensure that we follow. Again, there's a process to be followed.
Okay.
So I don't have information on that, but I do know that our team does actively work to address issues of potential fraud.
Right. Kind of sounds like you're saying that people who weren't qualified for some of these programs applied, and that kind of flagged maybe people to look at it, but it seems difficult.
Absolutely, and so, you know what, and just to share, Chris and Bree, one thing, you know, of course, we're really pushing and moving forward with trying to, you know, get more things done online. What that's going to do, and so, I mean, as we've talked about before, that helps us because, as you know, like for example, we went from less than 2% online filers for the purpose of Forms 1040 to probably we're like 8 or 9%. Of the 80,000 filers are online filers. So that's huge for us. But what that means for us, not just as a quicker turnaround in terms of refunds, things like that, but also it allows for our team to be freed up for more analysis. And our goal is to, you know, work to try to get our team to have more time to do an analysis so that we can do more enforcement. And in fact, in this past year, just to share, I'm not sure if it has happened before, but definitely for the first time in our administration this last 3 years, we had overtime for our criminal investigation branch, our exam branch, to focus more on enforcement efforts. So I think you're going to see, you know, well, definitely we will be seeing more in terms of our enforcement. And you know, of course, as we work to reduce manual processing analysis so that we can identify areas where, you know, there may be potential fraud, or if not fraud, then, you know, identifying any errors that perhaps may be pervasive that need to be addressed. So those are all areas, you know, we want to try to improve on so many areas. And again, we're excited about this coming 2022 tax year because now that we're hopefully settling in terms of all these programs that we're launching, it gives us the opportunity to prepare for 2022 to expand more what's able to be filed in terms of Forms 1040 online, and so that we can, again, reduce further the number of manual applications. Because, you know, I know the goal is to, you know, of course, get to a point where perhaps we're processing refunds within 3 weeks or less, if possible. You know, I know people are looking at parity in terms of the way that the IRS processes versus the way that Guam DRT does. But the difference between what's going on or what happens with the IRS and what happens with Guam DRT is the IRS, even pre-COVID, had 70 to 80% online filers, right? So when you have 70 to 80% of the taxpayers filing online, it helps so that way there's not as many manual returns to process, right? So there's less involved in terms of actual, you know, processing or data entry. So where we want to get is to that point where hopefully we're at 70 to 80%, so we can turn around and, you know, of course, that so there can be parity for our people in terms of being able to receive payments more quickly. But we're working on that, and in fact, even with 8 to 9%, we're just happy to say that we're well within, I think, 90 days, because we're July 2 right now and it is October 5. So, you know, we're about 90 days, right? Hovering around 90 days. So that's, I think for us, you know, again, usually we're at 6 months at this time, and, you know, so we've been able to cut that in half. And I think with more modernization, we'll definitely be able to further reduce those times so people don't have to wait as long for payments. And even, for example, for people who are waiting now for issues to be resolved with their All-Rise applications and other program payments.
All right. Thanks a lot, Daphne. I really appreciate your time. That was a whole lot of information. Was there anything else you need to get out before we let you go?
There is so much happening here at our agency. Yeah. Of course, we're processing advanced child tax credit payments. We're processing EIP3 payments, refund payments, and All-Rise program payments. We're going to do our best to address any All-Rise issues that have had to do with EFTs as quickly as we can. For people who have issues, again, if you could email us, we're going to do our best to get back to you. And we thank everybody for their patience, Bree. You know what, at the end of the day, you know, we're doing our best to crank out as much as we can. Of course, recognizing that the process may not be perfect and that we're, you know, of course, going to run into some challenges, but, you know, Again, our team has been committed to trying to serve our people the best we can, and we're going to continue to do that. But thank you for your time,
Oh, sorry,
and thank you
Daph.
again to the
I
community.
just had one more. I'm so sorry. The lady sounded.
Okay, no problem.
She filed amended return in April.
So if you filed already, where we are right now is we are at July 2. So if you filed and you have no error in your return, that April return should be already processed in our system.
It was amended though.
Yeah, so if you filed an amended return in April,
Yeah.
or she filed the original return in
She
April?
filed an amended return in April.
Okay, so yes, so I mean, as we've been going along, when we've been processing all returns that we receive, including amended returns. For that individual, if she has an issue still with her amended return, it's difficult to say what it may be, but she can email us and we'll work to contact her back on that issue.
Thank you, Daphne.
Or you can get her, in Chris and Bree, if you have callers, you can get their numbers offline as well and transmit those to us, and we'll try to get back to them as well as quickly as we can.
Thank you, Daph.
All right, have a great day.
All good.
Bye.
Ones. Right on. There you go. No further questions. Dafne Shimizu. Wow. Well, thank you, Rev Tax. I know there's issues with your child tax credit. She kind of laid out